The Harrington family dinner had barely begun when Justin Myers fixed his eyes on his father-in-law's worn brown coat.
Look at that ratty old thing. Did you fish it out of a thrift store dumpster?
Justin, stop. It was Mom's coat. You know how much it means to him.
The other relatives averted their eyes. No one challenged Justin.
It's an eyesore. Take it off, George. You are embarrassing the whole table.
Before George could respond, Justin stood, grabbed the coat by the collar, and yanked it from the old man's shoulders. Justin strode to the entrance and hurled the coat into the pounding rain, calling it worthless, never suspecting the secret it held would one day cost him everything. George pushed back his chair and walked out into the storm without a word. The cold rain soaked through his shirt, but he didn't care. He found the coat in a puddle, lifted it, and held it to his chest. Rain mixed with the tears on his weathered cheeks. Hours later, in his dark living room, George hung the dripping coat. A fresh tear in the lining caught his eye, and the edge of something hidden inside. George stepped closer. His fingers traced the torn edge of the soaked lining, uncovering the corner of something that didn't belong there. He parted the wet wool and found a thick, sealed envelope pressed flat against the fabric. With trembling hands, he slid it free. The paper was dry, protected by the coat's layers, yet decades old.
Margaret, what were you hiding from me?
Across the front, in her familiar handwriting, were the words, "For George, when you truly need it." He sank into his armchair, the envelope resting in his lap like a ghost.
She sewed it into the coat. She meant for me to find it someday. But why now?
His hands hovered over the seal. He wanted to tear it open, but something stopped him, a premonition of pain. The room was silent, except for the distant drumming of rain. The coat dripped steadily onto the floor.
Tomorrow. I'll open it tomorrow, when I am stronger.
Morning sunlight found George still in the armchair. The envelope clutched against his chest. He traced her name on the aged paper, then reached for the knife on the side table. The wax seal gave way with a brittle snap. Inside lay 2 folded pages, a letter and something heavier. He opened the letter first, and Margaret's voice seemed to rise from the ink. "My dearest George, if you are reading this, my worst fears may have come true. I loved you beyond words, and I took steps to protect what is ours. Justin's ambition was clear to me. I saw greed in his eyes, a hunger that would one day threaten this family.
All those years, she saw what I refused to see.
I cannot stop his choices. But I made sure you will never be homeless. The enclosed document gives you ownership of a property he believes is his." George wiped his eyes and stared at the folded deed, still untouched. The weight of her love pressed against his grief. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he set his jaw, a cold resolve hardening in his chest. George unfolded the second page, its texture heavier than the letter. Official stamps bled through the thin paper. He read the top line, and his voice cracked. "This quitclaim deed certifies that George Harrington is the sole owner of the address, was Justin's house."
The house Justin pretends is his. The one he lords over Claire like a king. It's mine.
His fingers traced the legal description of the 2-story colonial, a house he'd never entered, but that his daughter called home. He looked up at Margaret's photo on the mantel. She'd used her inheritance not for luxuries, but to buy a second property, a secret insurance against Justin.
You saw him clearly, my love. He thought he could just take everything, but you stopped him from the grave.
He folded the deed with deliberate care and sealed it back into the envelope, as if it were a weapon that required safekeeping. Then he opened the safe beneath his desk and placed the envelope inside, next to Margaret's wedding ring. He reached for his phone and scrolled to Douglas Shaw's name. A lawyer who'd known Margaret and would believe the impossible.
I'll call him first thing tomorrow. Justin threw my coat away, but he doesn't know what he threw away.
The next morning, George sat across from Douglas Shaw in a wood-paneled office that smelled of old books and leather.
George, you look like you haven't slept. What's going on?
George placed the envelope on the mahogany desk.
Read it, Douglas. Margaret left me a secret.
Douglas adjusted his reading glasses, his silver beard twitching as his eyes scanned the legal text.
George, this is a valid quitclaim deed. You own that house outright. The law is clear.
What happens if I enforce it legally? Will it hurt Claire?
Legally, yes. But it could shatter your relationship with her if you are not careful.
George absorbed the weight of the words. Justice had a price, and the currency was his daughter's trust. He thanked Douglas and walked out into the overcast morning, the envelope heavy in his pocket. Back home, George opened the old photo album. Margaret's face smiled up at him from every page, her quiet wisdom frozen in silver halide.
You knew what Justin was before any of us. I should have listened.
His phone buzzed. Claire's name lit up the screen, her face a thumbnail beside it.
Dad, Justin feels terrible. He wants to apologize in person. Will you come to dinner tonight?
After what he did, you expect me to sit across from him.
Please, Dad. For me. He knows he crossed a line.
This is a trap. I can feel it. But I need to see Claire.
He agreed, his voice steady. After hanging up, he knelt by the safe and locked the envelope away. He paused in the hallway. The brown coat hung motionless, a silent witness.
Justin threw you into the storm. Tonight, he has no idea what's coming for him.
That evening, George stepped into Justin and Claire's home, the air thick with forced pleasantries.
George, so glad you came. I owe you an apology. You know I get carried away.
Carried away? You threw my late wife's coat into a downpour.
Water under the bridge. I hope you didn't find any surprise in the lining. Margaret always had secrets.
Nothing but wet wool. But I am curious. Why would you think there might be something?
Just heard she was sentimental. Anyway, this house is finally paid off. Solid investment, right?
Justin, can we not talk about finances? You promised a nice evening.
George noted Claire's pale face and the way Justin's grin never reached his eyes. After dessert, George made his excuses. The air outside was colder and cleaner.
He's lying through his teeth. That house is anything but paid off, and he's hunting for something.
Claire followed him to the driveway, her voice trembling. Dad, I need to tell you something.
Justin took out a second mortgage. He used the house as collateral and never breathed a word. The bank's calling daily, threatening foreclosure. I am scared we'll be on the street.
He used the house as collateral. Did he forge your signature on those papers?
He had me sign a refinance last year. I thought it was routine. He said it would help us.
George's blood went cold. Justin had committed fraud using a property he did not legally own, but he forced calm onto his features, the same mask he'd worn at dinner, hiding the fury beneath.
Listen to me. I'll call my lawyer. Don't sign anything else, and don't confront him alone.
He squeezed her hand and drove away, the streetlights blurring past as his mind raced with the implications.
A second mortgage on my house. This is now a criminal case. Margaret's envelope just got heavier.
Back in his silent living room, George knelt at the safe and withdrew the envelope with steady hands. He unfolded the deed, and a smaller letter slipped out, addressed to Justin, stamped "Return to Sender." He read her words. Justin, if you persist in disrespecting this family, the house will never be yours. Consider this your final warning.
Justin had received the letter, refused to open it, and sealed his own fate.
The return address was Justin's own home. Margaret had mailed the warning straight to his door, and he'd thrown it back unread.
Now the second mortgage turns this from a civil matter into criminal fraud. I have everything I need.
He placed the documents into the safe and turned the key. the lock snapping down with finality. He called Douglas and spoke only 2 sentences. Set a meeting. I am ready.
Margaret, you saw this coming. I'll honor your last wish.
He stood, the envelope clutched to his chest, his face carved from grief and fury. The unbreakable resolve of a man who had just found his purpose. The next morning, George sat before his computer, the county property records portal, casting blue light across his face. He typed the address and hit search. A quitclaim deed blinked onto the screen, filed 2 years ago, transferring the property to Justin P. Myers.
This is not my signature. It's not Margaret's. He forged a deed to steal my house.
He scrolled to the notary stamp, a jagged, irregular impression that a real notary would never produce.
2 years. He's been lying to Claire for 2 years, sitting on a mountain of fraud.
With shaking hands, he took screenshots and attached them to an email for Douglas. The subject line, criminal evidence. He printed the deed and the county record, the printer grinding like a gavel striking wood.
Now I have the power to take back everything, and he doesn't even know I am coming.
He slid the printout into the safe beside Margaret's letter and the original deed, locking them all together. The meeting was set for Friday morning. 3 days to wait, and 3 days for Justin to face the man whose life he tried to destroy. That afternoon, George returned to Douglas's office, the printouts of the county records tucked inside his jacket.
Look at this, Douglas. Justin filed a forged quitclaim deed 2 years ago. He stole the house.
This notary stamp is counterfeit, uneven pressure, wrong ink density. George, this is criminal fraud.
He used a second mortgage on a house he doesn't own. That's larceny. What can I do?
We can press criminal charges and evict immediately. But if we move too fast, Claire might never forgive you.
I'll give Justin one chance to confess. If he admits everything and leaves peacefully, I won't file charges.
Douglas drafted a formal invitation, framing it as a routine estate review. He sent it to Justin and Claire for Friday morning.
3 days. Then the truth comes out, and Justin will finally face what he did.
He left the office with the evidence sealed in his briefcase, the weight of Margaret's foresight pressing on his chest. He walked out into the late afternoon, his grip tight on the briefcase handle. The only weapon he needed. Friday morning, the conference room felt colder than the drizzle outside. George, Douglas, Justin, and Claire took their seats.
Before we discuss the estate, you need to see something.
He placed the original deed, the returned letter, and the forged quitclaim on the polished wood.
What is this? You are trying to frame me with fake paperwork.
This deed is 20 years old, and that forgery has your name on it. You stole my house and committed fraud.
Justin, tell me this isn't true. You said the house was yours when we married.
I earned that house. You are just a bitter old man.
Sit down, Mr. Myers. You have until noon to vacate and repay the mortgage, or we file criminal charges.
Justin shoved the chair back, the sound ripping through the silence, and stormed toward the door. Claire buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking, as George watched the man he'd once welcomed walk away. Later that evening, Claire appeared at George's doorstep, her face pale and streaked with dried tears.
You humiliated him. After everything, how could you pull something like this?
I didn't humiliate him. I showed you the truth your mother died to protect.
He placed Margaret's letter in her trembling hands. Read what she wrote about Justin before you married him.
His ambition was clear. I saw greed in his eyes. She stopped, her voice breaking.
He forged a deed and stole our home. Margaret saw it coming and protected you.
All those years, he was just using me to get the house. What if everything was a lie?
She pushed the letter back into his hands, her shoulders shaking. I don't know what to believe anymore. She turned and walked out into the evening, leaving George standing in the doorway, the letter damp from her tears.
She'll need time. but at least now she's seen some of the truth.
Alone in his living room, George sat beneath a single lamp and reread Margaret's letter until the words blurred into a quiet armor.
You knew he would turn violent the moment he felt trapped, and you still stood between us.
The phone on the side table shattered the silence. Justin's name pulsed on the screen like a wound.
You think this is over, old man? You've made a huge mistake.
George pressed the record button and laid the phone flat on the table, Justin's voice spilling into the digital silence.
That deed is a forgery, and I'll prove it. You'll die alone, you miserable piece of...
Everything you are saying is being recorded. Justin, call your lawyer.
The call cut out. Outside, an engine turned over, tires crunching on wet pavement as headlights swept across the window.
He's coming here. Now.
He pocketed the phone, the recording still active, and moved to lock the front door, his only shield between him and the storm gathering outside. Headlights swept across the living room wall, then died. A car door slammed, and heavy footsteps hammered up the porch steps. Before George could move, fists pounded against the front door, rattling the deadbolt like a detonation.
Open up, you old fool. I want every piece of paper you've got.
George pulled the door open, his phone still recording in his pocket.
You think a recording scares me? You are a broke widower who knows nothing.
Justin shoved both hands into George's chest, sending him stumbling into the hallway wall.
That's assault, Justin. The call ran to my lawyer. Leave now or I add battery charges.
For one frozen heartbeat, Justin towered over him, breathing ragged. Then he took a step back. The front door slammed, and seconds later, tires screeched into the night.
Now I have everything. Assault, threats, fraud. He's handed me the rope to hang himself.
The next morning, Claire appeared at the door. No tears, just a hollow stillness in her eyes.
I found hidden bank statements. He forged my signature on 2 more loans. The debt is crushing.
She pushed a stack of loan documents into George's hands, her fingers trembling.
Dad, I am so sorry. I defended him, and he was destroying me. I need to leave him.
George pulled her close, the papers crumpling between them.
We'll do this together. Douglas will file the eviction today. You'll file for divorce. No criminal charges unless he forces our hand.
I'll pack my things now. Can we reclaim the house today?
She paused in the empty hallway of the house that was never truly her home.
You'll stay with me. Once the eviction goes through, this house will be yours under a trust.
By noon, the eviction papers were signed. George and Claire filed them together, a quiet declaration of war. That afternoon, Douglas filed the eviction order and a statutory lien against the property, blocking any sale or transfer. A process server intercepted Justin outside his office building, pressing the documents into his unwilling hands.
This is a setup. She can't do this to me. They're all in on it.
He grabbed his phone and dialed Claire, his voice cracking with a desperate fury he couldn't control.
I am not your wife anymore, Justin. The divorce petition is already filed. Don't call again.
She ended the call and set the phone face down on the table. Her hand finally steady. Justin tried to list the house for a quick sale, but the lien froze the title. The realtor called him back with the news.
They've trapped me. I am boxed in on every side.
By week's end, an official eviction notice was taped to the front door of the house. From across the street, George and Claire watched in silence, the paper fluttering in the wind like a white flag. At 9 o'clock, a sheriff's cruiser turned onto the street, lights off, but purpose in its approach. The deputy rapped on the door. Justin yanked it open, his face a twisted mask of fury and disbelief.
I am not leaving. This is my house. Call my lawyer.
The sheriff stepped inside. Within minutes, Justin was shoving clothes into a duffel bag, his movements jerky and violent. From the sidewalk, George and Claire watched through the open door, her hand gripping his arm.
It's really over, isn't it?
Justin emerged, the duffel slung over his shoulder. He stopped inches from George, eyes blazing with undiluted hatred.
You'll regret this, old man. This isn't finished.
George said nothing. He held the folded deed in his hand, the proof of a dead woman's love, and watched Justin climb into a waiting cab. The cruiser pulled away, leaving the house silent. For the first time in years, its walls belonged to the name on the deed. Claire stepped across the threshold alone, her footsteps echoing through rooms stripped of Justin's presence.
It feels so empty, so quiet, like the house is breathing again.
George followed her in and set an envelope on the counter. Inside were the trust documents.
From this day forward, the house is held in a trust for you. No one can ever take it from you again.
Dad, I don't even know how to thank you. After everything I said to you,
You were deceived. We both were. The important thing is you are safe now.
She threw her arms around him, a sob escaping from deep within her chest. He held on until the trembling stopped.
I'll make this house a home again. For me. For you. For Mom's memory.
George watched her move through the rooms, and for a fleeting moment, he swore he felt Margaret's hand on his shoulder.
We did it, my love. She's finally free.
By the time George reached his own porch, dusk had settled in, painting the sky a soft lavender.
I haven't felt this light in years.
He unlocked his door and stepped inside. The brown coat still hung in the hallway, silent as ever. He walked to it, ran his fingers over the torn lining, now empty of its secret.
You gave me one last gift, Margaret, and I used it to free our daughter.
He hung the coat carefully, smoothing the fabric as if tucking her in. Then he went to the window and looked out at the rosebush she'd planted. It was blooming. He opened the window, and the scent drifted in, faint but unmistakable.
I'll be all right now.
He stood there a long time, the weight of the world replaced by the fragrance of roses. Weeks later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Claire pulled into George's driveway. The rose bush was still blooming.
Dad, I got the job at the clinic. Between that and the trust, I can finally breathe.
They walked together through the neighborhood, her arm looped through his, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot.
The house feels like mine now. I even put up a photo of Mom in the kitchen.
That coat she left me. I used to think it was just pain, but it was her way of still protecting us.
Do you still wear it?
Sometimes. I had the lining mended. Now it hangs in my closet like a promise.
She'd be so proud of you.
They stood before the mantel, the candle flickering beneath Margaret's smile. George put his arm around Claire, and for the first time in years, the silence felt full, not empty. That evening, after Claire had gone, George walked to the hallway and lifted the brown coat from its hanger. He traced the mended seam with his thumb, the stitches almost invisible.
Broken things can be mended, even people.
He hung the coat carefully, straightening the collar as if she'd just walked out the door. Then he walked to the window. The rosebush was luminous in the twilight, each bloom a quiet victory. A single petal drifted down, and he watched it land without a sound, without a sound.
Thank you, Margaret, for everything.
He turned from the glass, and the house settled around him, not empty, but full of her presence. Outside, the rose bush swayed in the breeze, and the night gathered softly around a house that was finally home. And inside, George Harrington sat down to his evening tea, a man at peace.